him how cool it is now. Angela!
Welcome back to the Hiding for Horrors podcast, where we review horror movies and horror franchises. I'm Mark,
I'm Tawan.
and today we're reviewing Return to Sleepaway Camp, released in 2008, written and directed by Robert Hiltzik. Tuan, can you give the people the plot summary?
At Camp Manabe, kids torment each other while the staff offers minimal supervision. Greedy owner Frank and his partner Ronnie try to keep order, but when campers and staff start disappearing and turning up dead, Ronnie is reminded of past murders at Camp Arawak. As the body count rises, so does Ronnie's paranoia and the list of suspects. This summer at Sleepaway Camp, survival is the real challenge.
So, the Return to Sleepaway Camp. I had never seen this movie before. I knew it existed, I knew it was out there, but I had never seen it. And honestly, I I'm so upset that I had seen it. I never. While I was excited that the original Angela was back, I don't think this movie was needed. This movie was not needed at all, and it just feels out of place. And I hate it. I hate it when movies do that thing where the original director comes back and original cast comes back, so we're just going to ignore the movies that came in between. Like, it works for Halloween, but I feel like it only really works for Halloween. Because when everyone else tries to do it, it doesn't make sense to me. Because it's just like, I don't know. This movie doesn't make sense. What about you, Tuan? Because I have nothing to say.
Yeah, um, this was this was definitely something here. I didn't think it would get worse than what we just had with the third one, but here we are. Uh yeah, this one was just it was just not good overall. Like I went through the whole thing and immediately after watching it was just felt with the sense that my time was wasted. Like if I only had to give if I had to give like a positive feedback on anything, I'll probably say like some of the kills were at least good here. But outside of that, everything else was just a no. Like they even did the thing where, we got some characters back from the previous movie, like the first movie, like same actors and everything, reprising their roles, and like usually in these type of movies, that type of thing will like not save, but add a little bit of something here, but it didn't do anything for us in this, and not because the characters were bad in the first one, but the actors don't seem like they've acted in years since the original movie came out. It was just not. Things were just not adding up here clearly, and uh, I don't think that this was one of those movies that was kind of like the original. I don't think that the original was kind of one of those properties that was like aching to be like have a sequel to based off the first one with the original. Because I mean, let's be real. Besides the plot twist, the original wasn't like something really super to write home about, but the plot twist is what kind of saves it in that one. And but outside of that, it's generally generic. And I think I mentioned that even when we were reviewing it, is that you take that part away from it and you're left with a pretty generic slasher. But that ending recontextualizes a lot of it, and it feels like this guy was like, okay, what if I do that again? But make it worse for everything else. Because most of the stuff that we had in the first movie was, it was generally okay. Like some like the background characters were, they were still like kids and stuff. Everything was generally like fine. It wasn't like egregiously bad or good. It was just that middle line between okay, this is fine, but this one they it's like they found not they found they directed these actors probably like the worst that they could to for them to act throughout this movie, and the way that they made their characters made pretty much like everybody
It's missing the
unlikable.
charm of that first movie.
Yeah.
And thinking about it now, yeah, I was kind of a. Well, I know actually I enjoyed like the kid scenes and the camper scenes in that first movie. It made the universe feel lived in, and
Hmm.
it just made it feel authentic. And it kind of helped when they started getting picked off one by one because you knew them. This movie doesn't have anything. It doesn't have those actors weren't like great actors in that first movie, but like they did good enough. And we don't even have the bare minimum here. And oh my God. The way this movie looks. Now I hate the way early 2000s horror movies look. They always make me mad. They have that same effect that Scream 4 has, or it looks like glossy. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I don't know if I noticed it in this one, but also maybe I was just not paying attention enough for this movie
It
to
also
notice.
gave me like early 2000s like a porn movie. Like why is it was just
Well,
shot
just like a TV
weird.
movie.
Yes, but I've seen better TV movies. So it's just like, I mean, I've seen better porn movies, but this movie it's just not good. And then, I mean, I'll get into it later, but Angela wasn't doing it for me. But I'll get into that later. I mean, it's like this. I just don't. I don't get it. Like there are so many missteps, and I felt like they had so many things that could have worked for it. But like you said, this move, like that original movie, wasn't something that needed to have a direct sequel to. Like I was okay with part two and part three having the character of Angela, but not like directly like being linked to that first one outside of Angela in the camp. Because yeah, we have Ricky back, but like for what? But I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I mean, I'm kind of just I'm like not like slightly rambling because I was at the same time, um, well, watching this one, it just felt like a time waste after like watching it because it didn't really feel like nothing was kind of worth going on here. It really just felt like the like the director writer who did the first one, he was just like, well, I didn't get to do my sequel, so I get to do it now type of deal. And maybe it could have worked out if it happened earlier, not saying that it would have, but it just feels like at that point, like watching it just felt like gone already. Like it's like the idea of it just felt gone, and he was just kind of doing this like a vanity project at this point, but his heart wasn't in it. And the only thing it felt like
That's
he
100%.
was,
You're so right. That's exactly what this feels like.
yeah, and it kind of just feels like that. Like his like maybe like his heart wasn't like 100% in it, but he just wanted to do this, and that's fine. But for just do that for you, we didn't have to watch it. Uh, yeah, I was just not big on
That's what
this.
sequel novels are for. That's what sequel comic books are for. I mean, when they could make Ash versus Jason versus Freddy, they went to comic books, and that's okay. Do that. Spare us this.
Yeah, I know. I big agree. Like I definitely agree with that. Um, yeah. Besides everything else that I've said, though, yeah, this one just doesn't not up to par with I was about to say, well, I can't act like I'm about to, like not up to par, but we just talked about the third one, but not up to par with the first one, since
Okay,
technically we're
but that third
directly
one's better. Don't go quiet on me. The third one's better.
slightly, and it's like so
Slightly
slight.
by
It's
a.
like such a
It's not even that
slightly.
slight.
It's
No,
not
no, no,
even.
no, 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 no. Don't do that. Don't do that. If this is that one is miles better, like worlds apart. Don't do that. But
They're on the same level for me personally.
wow, you're delusional right now.
Mm-mm.
You're being
You
very
can't you
delulu, and
can't
I need
talk
you
you
to
can't
wake
call
up.
me Delulu about two bad movies.
You, but one is worse than the other. This movie is so much worse than that other one. At least that one had. It's at least that one had. It looked. I just can't. I can't defend this movie, and I can't say it's worse than the third one. But let's move on to. We're just gonna put the scenes and the kills together because I honestly, I had no kills to talk about, and I have like two scenes to talk about. Three. Every scene with that kid peeing in it, annoying. I I just didn't understand. One scene. Why did that random girl like grab his dick? I was so
Yeah.
confused. I was like, what's going on right now? And okay, oh, this is why I wanted to mention earlier. He tried so hard to like mimic the first movie that he made that kid. He made everyone like suspect that kid the same way everyone suspected Ricky in the first one. And I'm just like, this is what we don't need though. You don't have to like mimic yourself so closely. Like that's not needed at all. That
Hmm.
was very annoying. Like it's just I don't know. Like why does everyone think it's Alan? I mean, again, we did just watch Alan get picked on the entire movie, and some random lady like sexually assaulted him. But still, like I don't know. And then that random scene with Isaac Hayes. Like, sir, why are you here?
That
Like
was
you
so
couldn't been
random.
down that. Like you couldn't be down that bad after. Well, this would have been before he got he got kicked off of South Park. So like it's still and like to have this be your final like film credit, like one of your final film credits before you die is like God no. And then that ending scene, that reveal, it was that whole scene was comical. It's like, is this satire? Is this a scary movie? Like, what is this ending scene? But that's
Why
all I
was
got.
why was the ending scene trying to give usual suspects or some shit?
Right? And then the post credit scene, like y'all could have just kept that out. Like, I'm so sorry.
Funny enough, I didn't actually mind that. Like it wasn't
Well,
nothing like major, but I didn't mind that. Um, but as far as like honestly, the only thing that I found even slightly redeemable in this movie were some of the kills. Like the like not saying they look the best, but the the one girl getting killed with the nails on top of the bunk bed, I was like, okay, that's something I haven't seen before. um, or comical kill was when the one bully got killed with like the stake through the eye or like the stick through his eye. But which also pissed me off because I'm like, you just saw a sharp ass stick come through the hole in the floor, and you go stick your eye right through it. Like I don't care how old you are as a kid. What do you mean you're gonna put your eye right there? So that was
that was
something.
stupid. I didn't know what the hell was like. What is these kills? They weren't inventive for me. I was kind of bored.
Yeah, and I think the last one that I was like I think this one was just a general like what the fuck type of kill. When we got to it was when we saw when we found, I believe the character's name was Michael. He was on the ground like skinned alive.
Hey, that was crazy.
That
Like that had
was
to have.
crazy.
That, how did she do it that fast?
Like that was actually crazy because I was like, damn, like
I wanted to see that.
sickos be like.
Stop it.
But like I was just like, but like when we just saw it, like I was like, damn, like that was that, I was not expecting that because it like I was, you know, we had like a couple of graphic moments here and there, but like once we got to that, I was like, damn, it just like ramped up out of nowhere. But besides the, you know, those like those three for me, everything else was you know, nothing to like write home about. Um, Slash slightly generic, but I mean, Angela was getting them up out of here though.
I didn't enjoy it. The kills were lackluster. Besides that skin and live kill, like you could have kept that. They could have kept everything else. Like I was not. It wasn't for me. This I was just bored. Bored with the kills, bored with the scenes, bored with the characters. And speaking of the characters, let's start with. I didn't have that together. I didn't know I was going to transition. It kind of just happened. And let's start with the returning character, Ronnie. I forgot all about Ronnie. I forgot that Ronnie was the man with the short shorts running around trying to figure. Ronnie was the voice of reason in the first movie. He was
Hmm.
like, "Wow, we need to get up out of here." So I was kind of like interested in seeing Ronnie back. Did I need Ronnie to come back? No. Was it kind of enjoyable seeing him? Yeah. What about you?
Um, Honestly, when I was first watching, I kind of forgot who he was. Um, but as I was like watching, I'm pretty sure halfway through, I looked, I looked up, you know, some like background stuff on the movie, and I was like, oh wait, that was him. So it wasn't even, and I guess that's kind of like one of those things where this isn't one of those series where it's iconic enough for me to just know, especially because you know this is pulling like directly just from the first one, so like we didn't have like many or any returning characters besides like Angela throughout the series, you know, given how like the sequels and everything and how those played out. But when we got to him in this one, I wasn't even thinking much of it, and then when I actually found out, I was like, oh wait, that was him. So it was kind of like one of those reveals where it's like, okay, that's, you know, that's nice, but nothing that would have made my enjoyment of the movie any better or less for that matter. So, you know, it was a nice little nod to have him back in there and still working as a camp counselor. He still kind of had like the same attitude. Um, and I mean, even though he didn't you know, he didn't guess like the exact way that Angela was there. He was definitely like, "Oh, it's Angela," but he's definitely accusing. He was being very accusatory to people, like the one female counselor, where he was like, "Are you Angela?" or some shit like that. I was like,
Right. He
"Bruh."
just knew Angela was somewhere running
I
around.
swear,
And
he
I
just
was
knew
just
it was
like
her. But he just knew it was her. But he was gonna ask him. He's gonna make sure he asks everybody.
that man was he was on a mission like I know one you bitches Angela. So which one is it? He was so
So I'm like,
determined.
I'm like, you know what? So you're not too wrong, but not too much of her.
I had nothing for I want to know. Well, what are your thoughts on Rick on wait, is that who next? Let me see. What are your thoughts on cousin Ricky's return? We were kind of asking about Ricky in part one, I mean part two and part three because he was just MIA. But now we finally got him back. Are we satisfied? Are we okay? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he should have. He could have. not come back. You could tell that this man
Hmm.
hasn't acted since that first movie came out.
He's a singer. He's in the
Hmm.
band.
Yeah, he should have just made a song or something. Because
Oh
my
God.
guy was I don't know what he was doing here because it was not coming together for him during these scenes. Um, when they had to talk at the cabin um where he first saw why am I forgetting his name, Ronnie, after all this time, and they were like talking to each other. It felt so cringe between those two. Like it didn't it gave like people who never met in like who never met each other in their lives, but they're coming back together and having this little moment, but it was not coming together, and it really just once again just felt like this director wasn't directing these people. They were just kind of putting them on the set and giving them the script and said go. And
Yeah. There
you,
was
you
like no like rehearsal involved. No, we
yeah.
should probably brush up on our acting skills.
Yeah, or just like maybe another take or two. It just felt like, and that's funny because I feel like I felt this way about damn near every movie in this series. So one way or another is like a lot of the times it just feels like they go with the first shot and they're like, all right, we're good. Like they do whatever is the first shot of the day for whatever scene, and then they're like, "All right, we're good. Moving on to the next one." And yeah, I don't think that's how that works.
It's I don't know. It's crazy. I don't know what to do. It feels like they didn't know what to do, and they're just like, we want this to happen, and we need to like add this to it. You guys were in that original movie. We want to harken back to the original movie because I wrote it, and I need this to be my baby. But no one really cared. And I don't know, it's just so frustrating. Like something so much is missing. I just don't understand why. Like why was he like I wanted Ricky back, but not in this way. If you would have give me if Ricky would have been the killer. Okay, let's. If this was able to be connected to part two and part three, and we find out that at some point, she went off to the crazy asylum, she got out, and you know, then we get to Ricky, and we find out that Ricky's been trying to get Angela out, and Ricky also survived his crazy mother, and Ricky goes on a killing spree, and at some point he breaks out Angela, and they killing folks together. I would have been okay with that. I don't. I didn't want Ricky back for this. This was not needed. He was not needed. He should have been left in the drafts, like completely. Like don't ever touch him. Just take him out like, write him out in your third draft and just keep it that way because he is not needed in this movie.
And if anything, he could have just been used in that one scene where Angela, as the cop, went to go talk to him to like check on the status of Angela, and like that could have just been it. But he didn't have to come back to the camp and all that. Like I
He
could like it
wasn't needed.
could have just been a phone call talking about Angela escaped from the asylum or the mental facility or whatever.
That's all it had to be, but they did way too much. I didn't need him and his bleach blonde hair.
And that little Angela at the end took me the fuck out.
What the auto tune? Like what was this? Who did this? Why was this approved? But speaking of why it was disapproved, let's talk about the only kid that really stood out, that was only really featured in this movie, and talk about Alan.
Mm.
Now, at no point did I think Alan was the killer. I know they wanted it to be a red herring. I never had that impression. I never thought it was Alan. Also, was Alan dead at the end? Because what the fuck?
He looked quite dead at the end. I mean, he got bludgeoned up really badly. But also, like you, I I never really thought he was the killer, which also for me was kind of like, yeah, I don't feel like it's him, but I also don't know who else it could be. And then for a little bit, I was believing um, Ronnie about it possibly being Angela, which I mean was true. But at that same time, I was like, if it's Angela, like, what are we doing with this whole narrative? Like, it's so like this whole story of Alan feels so disconnected right now. Like, it doesn't feel like it should be here. Like, it just feels like something that would probably. It feels like something that like a storyline we probably would see happen in the background, but they didn't have anything else to give us for like a main story, so he became our like, I guess you could call it main protagonist, and it was just so bad. Like, he was just not anyone that we would want to follow, and the fact that we had to, it was just not worthy of anyone's time there, like to watch, because he was just not a redeeming character. Like, we're watching this person who is also a bully, but they're getting bullied by the other bullies, but we're supposed to feel bad for this bully, and I'm watching. I'm like, I don't feel bad for none of y'all. Actually, like, all of y'all can kick rocks. Like, all of y'all suck. So it was just really weird watching it, and nobody was redeeming here. Like, it could be, it could be different. Um, it could really be different if the approach was different, or if the character was written in a different way, anything like that. But they made a character who really would also be in the same bucket as the bullies. Um, the one we're also supposed to, I guess, care about for the way that they were portraying it to be for us in this story, and it just wasn't adding up. And then we get to the end where he basically gets killed because they thought he did it, but well, as we see, he didn't do anything, and it's just like, well, I don't think he deserved to die for anything, and now I'm even more confused. So yeah, that was definitely some choices there, Mr. Hiltzik. He spent all that time between that first movie and now, and came up with this. We should check what ChatGPT would do.
Well, let's move on. Let's talk about Angela and the return of the OG Angela. What did you think of her and her performance?
Um, the way I really didn't even feel nothing for her coming back at the end like that. Like, he was. I feel like they was really trying to give us, a moment like we got in the first one. But I mean, that it feels like that moment has already passed, and we're beyond it now. I feel like I kind of would have respected it more if we just knew from the jump that it was Angela somehow, and it intertwined with a story of like another killer, for like, or one of the like another one of the students or campers being a killer, like at the same time possibly. But just getting that reveal that we got at the end, the same, like, basically the same scene in a sense, with the laugh that, or like, yeah, like the maniacal laugh that Angela gave at the end of this one, and then the first one as well, kind of like going tandem with that. It was just, it felt it felt like a ripoff of a it felt like a ripoff of what we already got before. And not saying it can't pay homage to its own thing. We we got those, and as you mentioned, like the newer Halloween movies, homages to the past ones and things like that. So, like, not saying he can't homage like his own thing, but it's not like this is a Halloween esque franchise. It's only three movies, with this one being the fourth one, and then the two after the first one aren't even, as connected. And then this one is only following a direct sequel to the original movie. So it's like, what are we doing here? And while I'm sure, you know, fans of this franchise like that she came back, and I didn't mind that the original actress was back for Angela, because the one that was in the two sequels was she was something, but it didn't really feel like this was worth the return for her in this one. Now, I do give like the actress props. Like everything I've seen about this actress since getting into these movies, she seems like a real really good really good person, all that, and like she loves the character of Angela. So it probably was like for her at least to come back. That was probably really fun for her, but but just for the purpose of the movie, it was not really that necessary. And then the way we kind of went about it too, with the whole like her faking as the cop and everything. I mean, that was slightly interesting, and they did pretty good with the effects and like the effects and everything, making her look like that, like a male and everything there. But once we got to the end, and we found out the reveal, it wasn't it wasn't doing anything for me. How about you?
I miss Pamela. She Going back to that first one, Angela was quiet. She was mute, very shy. We didn't really get a performance out of Angela. We didn't see Angela activated until the last shot. So the Angela that I'm used to seeing is Angela from part two and part three. We need to with Pamela Springsteen giving her a personality of sorts. And I don't know, I wasn't seeing that. And then we have her playing like cosplaying as this cop, and the cop was just weird with the voice box. It's just I didn't enjoy it like at all. It was all unenjoyable, and it's no. Well, Tuan, we're down to our favorite part. Can you give the people the behind the scenes info and facts?
Sure will. So the budget for Sleepaway, well, sorry. So the budget for Return to Sleepaway Camp was $4 million, and at this point in time, we currently do not have any box office or DVD sales listings. Some interesting facts. This is Isaac Hayes' final movie, though it was shot 5 years before his death, and he had a subsequent cameo in the movie Soul Man, released in 2008. This is the first sequel to be written, directed, and produced by Robert Hiltzik, who wrote, directed, and created the original Sleepaway Camp. Besides being credited for specific character creations, Hiltzik had no involvement with either Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers, or Sleepaway Camp 3, Teenage Wasteland. Felissa Rose, Jonathan Tiersten, and Paul D'Angelo are the only cast members from the 1983 original film who reprised their roles for this direct sequel. And despite being released in 2008, this movie was filmed in 2003. That says so much. Some critics' reactions. While the film is listed on Rotten Tomatoes, it currently does not have a critic score and only has a 20% audience score based on 1,000 ratings. Um, okay. The film was given a 1 out of 4 by Arrow Head's Pat Torf, who concluded, "A return, this is not. Hilsick should have taken Sleepaway Camp 4, The Survivor's Demise, as a warning and let this series go quietly." And in his review for DVD Verdict, Gordon Sullivan wrote that Return to Sleepaway Camp makes Sleepaway Camp 3 Teenage Wasteland look like Shakespeare. A poor script and total lack of compelling campers and a too brief glimpse of Angela all spell trouble for this nostalgic trip back to Campland. I know that diehard fans of the original film will likely get suckered into watching this, but everyone else should stay far, far away.
The Rotten Tomato score was crazy to me because I was on Google like, am I missing something? Is this what
Yeah, I don't
I've
think
never
I've
seen
ever
this done
seen that.
before? I was like, yeah,
Even
but y'all
Hollow Man
can't do
2 had a
right. Right.
Hollow Man 2 had a score.
I was like, damn, y'all didn't. Wow. Okay. Well, we've come to the end. Do we cash or pass? Return to sleepaway camp. Go on.
I will definitely be passing on Return to Sleepaway Camp. Just like that fact and the interesting facts told us, this movie was filmed in 2003 and did not release until 2008, and it really feels like it. Um, there really was not, anything redeeming that we got out of this. It didn't push any story along. The story that it was trying to give us was just background fodder the while Angela did her thing here. But outside of that, there was nothing going on here. This just felt like I mentioned earlier, a bit of a vanity project for Hiltzik and something that he just wanted to do since he didn't get to do any of the other sequels. And it really shows because it doesn't seem like he's like passionate in it. It just feels like, okay, I can finally do this. Let me get a chance. Let me get a stab at it. And they should have not let him cook because he was not giving anything. I will pass on this movie, and yeah, I don't feel like I will be watching much of this franchise.
Yeah, I'm also gonna pass. This was not a good movie. I was bored. I was uninterested. The cinematography is crappy. The acting is crappy. The script was crappy. It was all crappy. I didn't enjoy this. And again, the movie was made in 2003 and sat on the shelf for what, 4 or 5 years? Like they should just left it on the shelf. This was not needed to come out. And I just don't understand. This movie's not good, and I'm upset that we watched it. And I will never watch it again. But join us next week as we gather together to do our favorite part of our retrospective, rank the movies from worst to best. But until then, good night.
If you like this episode, please be sure to check out some from the Haddonfield Horror Cemetery, where we've covered big franchises such as Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Saw, or one-off reviews like The Blackening or Hereditary. You can follow Haddonfield Horrors on Instagram and TikTok, where the host posts updates and mini reviews. Full episodes are available on several podcasting platforms, including Spotify, as well as YouTube. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe. The Haddonfield Horrors podcast is produced by Mark Smart, Tawan Griffin, and Elian Cordova, themed by Lethal Injection, and edited by Mark Smart.
The Haddonfield Horror Podcast is a letter to media production.
Should we do an intro?